We're going to need this. I'll show you some secrets. I have been doing the final sanding to this fuselage since I pulled it off the board, and I'm almost there. I want to show you a few secrets on how to get a final sanding to where there'll be as little or as few imperfections in the frame as possible, because covering, just like paint, will show any imperfections. So I have a few places marked here with blue tape, and those are areas where the cross members were slightly below the surface of the longerons. So I'll show you how to fix them. And I had a couple spots where the 1/8 inch fill, where the fit wasn't perfect, which would leave a little bit of a gap between the longerons and the fill. That's what this is going to be for. The fits on this 1/8 inch fill to the frame is mostly good. Sanded nice and flush, except for this area right in here. I can feel it with my fingernail. And the cut is good as far as the fit to the frame, but the edge of that balsa is slightly rounded, so it didn't sand flush, and that would show through the covering. So we're going to fill that with this balsa dust and CA. Small bead of super glue, but I want to make it more sandable. So it takes this balsa dust and simply rub it in where I just applied that CA. It will fire immediately. Kind of interesting. If I just filled that with CA, it would leave a bit of a hump there, and you would end up cutting into the balsa wood around it before that hard CA would sand down flush. Now I can do my full flat sand with the sand and block on that area, and there is a very nice patch. That little low spot there, that won't show through on the covering. Got a little more back in here, a little high spot that I wasn't totally happy with. And there, sanded nice and flush without digging into the balsa around it. I had a couple other spots I did that. Here's an area where I did it. I saved that last spot to show it. I think I might have did a couple places in these fill areas right here. Here's one where I used the balsa dust to fill that, and it's perfectly smooth. If I come all the way down to the fill on the nose, there's another little bit of a patch where this is a square cross member, and the balsa fill's coming in at an angle, so there was a bit of a low spot. Fill that, sand it. Not only has balsa coloring to it, but that will not show up when you cover it. Now let's look at these spots I have marked with blue tape. This is the bottom of the fuselage. As I was building, I have a couple of these stringers that didn't match up perfect with the longerons, and when I look down my fuselage, I'm not sanding the longeron anymore. And I have a couple spots where you can see the shadow. You can hear it with my fingernail. They're a little bit below the longeron. Like you can see, this one does not have the shadow. That's an example of it being flush. So I need to fill or raise those cross members. For a problem area like this, I'll take my ruler. I can see with the light coming underneath this ruler that it starts dipping from about here out to the longeron. So I'll mark that. I'll look at this one, same thing. I can see through the light. Starts dipping from about here back, and the reason for that mark is, again, CA doesn't sand very well. So for this patch, I'll take a short piece of longeron and I'll run my CA right almost to that mark and stop. That way I won't have super glue running out past where I'm fixing it. So I'll glue that down like that, and then I'll cut that off with a number 11 X-Acto. Now I'll cut it pretty wild. Like I'll come in here and just make some score marks, and I'm going to go high, like even halfway up the balsa wood. This little short piece of balsa wood I have, I'll come up high. So I just want that patch to stay in there. So I'm cutting behind where I put the glue, scoring it through. There, you just seen it separate. And I'll get my knife in here and just cut that off. So now I have that patch right in that area. This will give me a feathered out patch made of the same material as the original cross member. And I can span this, sand that flush, and it's a patch that you will not be able to see. I'm going to go off camera, so I want to sand both sides of this, get this nice and level down to where I patched it, and I'll show you the what it looks like after I get it sanded. There is the final sanding on the patch on these two cross members. Now you can see that, like this cross member I showed earlier, can't see a shadow where it's lower than the longeron on either one of these. That won't show through the covering now. That may seem a little bit excessive, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the little difference that makes all the difference building a nice model. And I'm not done yet. I have another thing to show you. I noticed when I was building the side frames, these curves are more severe. So when I was bending the longerons around the T-pins, I've got dents in the longerons on the inside. I'm going to show you a way to get rid of the dents in the balsa wood, and it's going to involve water and a trim iron. These are the dents from the T-pins I'm referring to. They're on the inside, the longerons, where this tighter bend was made. So here's all you need. Number 11 X-Acto. Apply a little bit of water. Let it soak in a little bit. Listen, here's where the magic happens. The water turns to steam, expands the balsa, dents are gone. Okay, that takes care of the last of the dents. The last thing that I got done was this aluminum tube, rear peg for the motor. Got the holes in that. I did that with Dremel tool, with what you call a burr bit. Went in there, opened up the hole, got it close for size. The last bit I used a 1/8 inch round file, so I have it so that it's a friction fit to where it's going to stay in while flying, but I can take it in and out easy enough. And then I case hardened it with CA. So that is done. Rear peg and the fitting of that. It's kind of an important thing. You want that to hold up. Say it's going to come in and out every time you load a motor. Your rear peg, aluminum tube. I have one more detail before covering. I think it's something that quite often gets missed, and that's putting a radius, small radius, on the corner of every longeron. It looks nicer, and it certainly feels nicer in your hands